Oh, baby. You wanted spicy Louisiana. Hold on, one more chance.
Louisiana
Oh,
liquor.
oh, baby. You wanted spicy Louisiana liquor and legal advice? Then you're going to get it because today our Baton Rouge badass is back. You know him from Court TV, killing it all over social media all the time. You know him from Legally Served on Talk 107.3 with Brian Haldane, and you know him for telling it like it is. The Octopus King himself, Franz Borghardt, and octopi or octopuses never travel alone. And in this case, he stopped by Atlanta, Georgia, and grabbed the toughest knockdown, drag out defense attorney in the lower 48. She is the laser focused. She is the one who knocks. She is the cerebral assassin, Rachel Kaufman. How's it going?
Ah, you may not know me, but now you do.
So, true story. Everybody thinks that my favorite Georgia attorney is Josh, the Joshua Shipper. Not true. I have said on more than one occasion on air that Kaufman is my spiritual unicorn. That's who I wish I could be like. So,
I want to be a Baton Rouge badass, like Boosie Badass and Franz.
Well, you're actually you have to be a badass because with the shitstorm that is your legal system right now, it seems like Georgia, if you're a lawyer, is the best place to be, but if you're anybody else, it's the worst place to be.
Yeah, it's like it's a failure to thrive environment where some of us still thrive.
So, speaking of the shitstorm that's coming, what is with Fannie Willis? Like, I mean, we all kind of knew that this was happening.
Okay.
oops.
I don't
But let
understand. I don't understand why it's the big deal that it is. I understand it's an issue, but maybe you can walk us through it a little bit.
Yes. So I'll explain the allegations, I'll simplify them, but basically one of Trump's co-defendants filed a motion to have Fonnie Willis and the special prosecutor Nathan Wade recused from the case because not only are they alleged to have carried on a romantic relationship throughout the process of whatever you want to call it. He's still married, but
Oh,
he
okay.
is but he's separated. But so they started a romantic relationship. But unlike most of Fonnie Willis's employees, he was brought in as a special prosecutor, being paid a very high, like a $250, I think, hourly rate for all the work that he was putting into the Trump investigation, which involved a 7 or 8 month special grand jury, being paid hourly. It ended up totaling to significantly more than the salaried, experienced attorneys in her office are being paid to handle several cases at a time. And when you're working for a DA's office, you don't have the right to also take on personal injury cases and other stuff. So these regular attorneys in her office they have a salary, and he gets brought in and is making like $300,000 a year because he's billing significant hours. He's also
He's
not
giving special services.
he's giving special services. Here's the real kicker is that she hired 3 special prosecutors, 2 of which have significant felony experience. I think one does RICO cases. He's like the RICO guru. The other one, she does appeals. And then you have Nathan Wade, who has apparently never tried a felony case. And he is a municipal court judge by appointment, where he handles traffic tickets. But he was brought on hourly and then also allowed to continue to make money on the side.
Pretty good deal. I was just gonna say that's probably one of the first times that a man has been paid for sex.
Well, then the issue is that she's paying him all this money, and then he's paying for things for her. So it's giving the appearance that like she's dragging this out, or she has an interest in the prosecution, in spending a lot of time investigating and prosecuting it, because then her boyfriend gets a lot more money, then she gets to go on fancier trips and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, apparently he isn't disclosing any of this, was not disclosing any of this to his wife, who, in the process of the divorce proceedings, he had been held in contempt for not turning all this information over previously, which is how this all came about. But so anyway, so what's the issue? The issue is not that she has a workplace romance. That's not the issue. The issue is that it appears that she, for her own personal benefit, and her boyfriend's personal benefit, are going forward with this case, and prosecuting it to the fullest so that they can continue to be together and get paid for it.
Now, Do you think
Yeah.
yeah, like obviously running up the bill works well for him, but like we've talked about RICO trials a lot lately, just because what's going on with him and YNW and all that. If this wasn't a Trump related situation, could this, I don't want to say open and shut, but could this have been kind of taken care of by now by whatever means?
No.
Or no?
Would have been slower. There'd be less pressure. And very rarely do prosecutors ever get held accountable for anything. It's only because we're dealing with these high stakes criminal defendants who have a lot of pull in the media within their own community, and they've a vested interest in in taking the integrity of this investigation and throwing it out the window.
Well, and lest we forget, hold on,
Yeah.
lest we forget, RICO cases, it's kind of like me telling you, instead of just going into the forest and cutting the tree down that I want you to cut, we're going to burn the entire forest down to get to that one tree, because it's not exactly an easy way of prosecuting. There are easier ways.
Nothing efficient about it.
Yeah,
Nothing.
it seems magnificent because you can lump everybody together, but it's not. It would be easier just to prosecute Trump. I mean,
Yeah, well, we could have been done by now. So the whole thing is, now this is going to affect the election. The appearance of impropriety is really the issue here. It's the fact that whether or not she got kickbacks or whatever it was, it just looks bad now, and that could affect the integrity of the prosecution, which, if she cares about justice or even like our country and what's going to happen, who's going to be the next president, you have to let somebody who does not create the appearance of impropriety handle the case. I think it's not even whether she did or didn't do any of these things. It's the appearance of it. Now, then there's the secondary issue that Donald Trump's lawyers filed in their motion to recuse. I know a little bit about this. So they filed a motion adding the issue that she went to the Big Bethel Church, which is a predominantly African-American church, and basically said that she's not going to be the one using the race card. It's them that's using the race card. She used them and they. It's like, who are you talking about? Creating racial divisions within Fulton County to Black Fulton County jurors, potential jurors. And that's an ethical violation. Trying to affect to add that racial division in this whole thing. She's saying they didn't ask about the other two prosecutors, special prosecutors. They just asked about the Black one. And you're not having sex with the other two, and they're both qualified.
So
I don't know. So there's
see, you guys, like outside of the American public, as people that are involved in the court system, like, do you see something like this and think overall, like, you have a concern about the level of intelligence of somebody like this saying they're in charge of something that's so important in my system, and you're making such stupid mistakes, like not knowing that this would come out, and then playing to the race card and all this sort of thing. Like, you sit back and say, you know what, these are the people that are making decisions in my cases.
They're holding other people accountable. They're spending their lives trying to hold other people accountable, and they will take no accountability. Does it surprise me? No.
I've been to
Not
Canada
for a second.
I've been to Canada. Let's not get too high and mighty.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
I said I've been to Canada. Let's not get too high and mighty.
I love Canada.
But here's the thing. This is the question I posed last time we talked about this. This is the question I posed to Rachel this time, is think about all the other serious criminals committing crimes or allegedly committing crimes in that county, right? And there could be some really serious cases in that courtroom, docketed in that courtroom. What happens to all those other cases while this logjam is happening? Like, are we still moving all those?
Nothing.
Say again?
No.
Yeah.
No, we just keep them in our jail until they die. And that's what they've done. And that's what happens. All these other cases get pushed aside. All for them to ultimately, the three co-defendants that I think that have taken pleas in the Trump case so far didn't even have to take plea to RICO count. They let them take pleas like misdemeanors and first offender counts. So it's like, you're going to spend 8 months on a special grand jury investigation and dick around for a year. We have an election coming up. But no, this is the typical pace. And if you don't matter, it goes slower.
And you know what else is interesting is it's not a defense attorney issue per se, like only because we talked with Cheryl McCollum a little while back, and she said from the police standpoint, it works the same where you guys have people that are innocent or not, guilty of what they're saying they are sitting in jail. Where she's saying the logjam works the same way. You have people that are guilty, red-handed, that sort of thing, that are out walking around. That's the same thing. The logjam in the system it doesn't work for anybody.
If my client is out if my client is out, why try today when I can try years
6
from
months.
now?
Yeah, exactly.
If my client is out, if my
Yeah.
client is sitting patiently in a prison, and we're talking years for something that should go to trial in 6 months, it's not exactly justice, right?
No.
And the problem is when you create these unnecessary log jams, which are political. I mean, look, regardless of how you feel about Trump, this was a political witch hunt. Why
I
else
just,
use RICO?
oh,
You disagree?
well, I don't think you need RICO. I mean, I don't think it
Well,
needs to be.
yeah, that's if you want to go after Trump, I'm okay with that. You don't need to use RICO. That's my thing.
Yes,
That
you don't need to use RICO for Young Thug. Not everybody. They overuse party to a crime, and when you add 4 co-defendants to every criminal incident, well, that's gonna jam the system too. If you blame people for what other people do, I think there's some criminal defense attorneys who, I mean, I believe in accountability. So this is what's maybe I'm not a great lawyer to go like lie for you. I'm really not. But I love to handle your truth, get to the bottom of it, and may it either set you free at a trial or maybe plead to the court and become a better person. That's really that's what I want for yeah, that's what I want for my clients. So I feel like I could really I can go to the prosecutor's office. I mean, we could filter, they need a filter. But the problem is people in power want to expand power. They want to create more money for their budget. They want to add employees. They're not trying to like a company that's having budget issues doesn't just go ask for more money. They try to like trim the fat and become a more efficient system. The court system and the government in general have no interest in doing that.
To be sure, if the allegations in the filing today are correct, the only people winning in this case right now are the lawyers. The defense attorneys are probably billing by the hour. I'm assuming they're billing by the hour, and they're making buckets of money.
Who?
And they're really good. From what I've heard, they're doing a really good job.
The criminal
billing by the hour?
They don't really do that. I mean, at least I don't. That's not something that usually happens in Georgia. I don't know if is that normal.
But I would imagine that for Trump, you think it's a flat fee?
I have no idea. But Steve Sadow is dead serious, and by adding the racial thing that the concern about the racial divisiveness, I think that's actually a better claim than the original one.
I'm pretty sure it's the Trump case where we've seen some of the hourly billing stuff. Like I'm almost positive it was his case. Where they they showed some people were billing 24 hours for a 24-hour day.
Wait, some people? Just Nathan Wade. I don't think the other 2 were.
It's brilliant.
So I cannot speak for Rachel. In a normal jury trial, if I'm keeping track of my time, and I charge, in Louisiana, we charge flat. We keep track of our time, but it's all flat fee. In a normal felony jury trial, like a 12-person jury, it could be easily a 15 to 18-hour day. Because, I mean, it's not just in courtroom. It's all getting up early, prepping and making sure you're ready, going through the day. At some point, you got to stop and eat dinner, and then you're going to decompress, and then you're going to prep for the next day. So, I mean, these 24 hours is a bit ridiculous. But, like, 15, 16 hours,
They haven't gone to trial.
I know. I don't
I mean, what are you talking about? They're taking 24 hours when they're reading documents and shit. This isn't trial yet.
You know what? It's actually interesting.
Think about that.
It's interesting that you guys brought up the billing part of this, because we had somebody ask us a question a few weeks ago about Rex Hoyerman. Now, assuming not a serial killer obviously needs a lawyer, but how do you guys deal with somebody that comes in that has an ongoing, if okay, I've been found, I'm guilty of this, I'm sort of guilty of this, that sort of thing, but in the next, 2 months to 5 years, more of this is going to come out. How do you approach that? Not just from a billing standpoint, from a defensive standpoint.
I'll let you, Franz, you first.
So when I was a baby public defender, starting my career, I got appointed to represent a serial killer in Baton Rouge. We had 3 major serial killers made national news. I got the 3rd one. He was the least publicized one because he was killing high-risk victims. And for your listeners, high risk,
low value, yeah.
Yeah, low value, drug, prostitutes, human beings. We just call them high risk. He was already doing 50 years on another conviction in another jurisdiction. So it was basically that the state was playing with house money, and it was one count of murder, but there were at least 4 or 5 bodies that had hit the ground that they were trying to lump together using other crimes evidence. And basically, I mean, there was no negotiations because he was already doing 50 years. There was nothing they could offer him that would entice him. There was nothing that he was willing to do that was reasonable in their minds. And so it was playing with house money, right? And so it was just, I handled it like I would handle as a spunky young public defender. I handled it like I would handle anything, like I had a chance of winning, which I didn't. Made a great record, had a lot of fun trying the case. I probably put in, it was the most time consuming thing I've ever done. It was the longest trial I've ever done. And it was emotionally the one trial that, so I cannot speak for Rachel, but I will tell you, after a long emotional trial, it all catches up to you, right? You're going through it. You're in the moment. You're powering through. And at the end of the trial, no matter what happens, it's like you hit the brakes, and it finally emotionally hits you what has been going on for the last week, 2 weeks, where you haven't been getting sleep, you haven't been eating right. You know, God knows what's been going on with your family and those you care about. That was the hard one, right? And so for me, it was less stress because he was already doing 50 years. So it was like, what am I going to do to mess it up? He's already spending life in jail. But it was also, those are like, marathon trials are rough. They are rough.
You know what though? It shows that you have some like a passion. It shows that you have a heart because it's they stuck you in the game when you were losing 70-0, and
That's our job.
you tried, and then you ended up losing 70-0, and you had an emotional attachment to it.
You have to lick your wounds, and yeah.
So
it's
I said in that case, I said that if the jury deliberated for more than 45 minutes, it was a victory, and they deliberated for an hour and a half, but they did eat lunch. So
You're so funny.
I wonder if they billed for that.
It was fun though. It was a lot of fun, and in
Great
fact,
experience.
it was great experience. And in fact, the crazy part was the victim in the case actually associated with another serial killer, and so our defense was going to be not my serial killer, that serial killer. That evidence at the last minute got excluded, which was really weird, and then it just became like, okay, well, it was 2 weeks of me getting hit in my head. Well, I didn't get hit in my head. The defendant got hit in the head. And the kicker was, I had so much fun. I actually really liked him as a human being. I mean, monster, yes, human being, loved him as a human being. Afterwards, he filed civil suit against his entire team. I had like 6 attorneys working on it. It was a lot of fun, and he filed suit against all of us. So, but he never had us served. So like the suit never went anywhere, but when the statute of limitations runs on it, I can like write a book about it because he waived privilege by filing suit against me. But it was that I'll tell you, fighting an uphill battle is not a problem. That's I mean, everything's an uphill battle generally when you're a defense attorney. If I could, I will tell you, it was much easier trying jury trials when I was a prosecutor.
Obviously.
When I could set, yeah. I mean, I've been asked before, what was so hard? I mean, what was the hardest part of being a prosecutor? And I'll say, determining if I was doing a good job or not. And people are like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, if I win as a prosecutor, I'm kind of supposed to win, right? Like how do you measure success when it's like a loaded deck?
Well, like, you guys get the A+ in life, and that's
right. So, I mean, and again, on the clients I really, really, really care about, and the ones I really, really worry about are generally the ones I think really didn't do it, and those are the ones that keep me up at night. So
I could just see the look on Franz's face after the trial, and he gets the letter that the guy wants a civil suit. You're like, yeah, you're a serial killer. I like you, you son of a bitch. Why are you suing me?
They have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Back then, I was very butthurt about it.
Yeah,
today when I
deal with it, you have to deal with.
Yeah, today I'm like, just tried a murder case, and now my client who wants a complete copy of his boxes of discovery that I send to the Department of Correction prison, who files the bar complaint against me, and then talks to me like we're chums. I'm just like, he's just doing his job.
That's okay. He just wanted you to call him.
Yeah. That's okay.
Literally. I mean, I think some of it ends up just being like they just want contact, and it's like a way to, in some situations, yeah, we start liking our clients. I mean, some of them I can't stand, and I've won for ones I can't stand, and sometimes I've lost cases, or the jury's found them guilty when they're not. It's a very uneven-handed system, I guess, just in general. But I'm haunted by cases and jury trials regularly. But I also feel like I have amnesia as like a form of trauma where I just don't want to remember. But every time, like at the grocery store, I like look at people. I'm like, "Are you that white guy in the case that
Yeah.
like,
But I
like?"
think you have to have that. I mean, there's so many different facets to what you guys do. It's like you have to be heartless, but you have to have a heart, and you have to work with these people whether you like them or not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job. You obviously have to make money. So it just sounds like when that phone rings, you're like, oh God, what is it going to be
So
now?
I
It
have a
used to be fun
mix
at
of
the beginning. Now I'm like,
so
no.
I have a mix of practice. I do a lot of private work, and then I do a lot of federal, what we call criminal justice act court appointments. So I have a mix of indigent clients and clients that I charge a lot of money for to balance out all that. And I will tell you, it's really interesting because if I were to tell you which of the two I'm generally closer with, it's generally the indigent ones. Those are the ones where I'm having meetings with grandmothers, aunts, the only family that this client has that actually cares about him on the outside because they're incarcerated. On the off chance that I can get him out on a federal detention, which I'm just in a jurisdiction where they like putting people in jail in federal detention. I love doing those cases. And the reality is that a lot of my private cases are not like 20 something year old gets popped with felony drugs where I know the result's going to be mitigation, some kind of disposition where they're not ruined for the rest of their life. The meat and potato cases I have where I do most of my litigation are the federal indigent ones because I mean it just is what it is. So
Now, I just want to switch gears a tiny bit here because you were
Yeah.
talking about what you do. I know you work in a lot of, you've had a lot of sex crime cases. I don't know if it's different with the Vince McMahon because he's older, or it's because people in his circle, hard to flip flop on him. But
well,
he's been up to this for a long time. I mean,
so
from
let's not lose sight of the very poorly reported lawsuit. His lawsuit's not about the sex allegations. It's about he didn't pay the hush money.
yeah,
And this is an important. I taught a law class the other day where 10 minutes at the beginning of the law class, I stressed the importance of if you're going to enter into a hush agreement with somebody, the most important part of the hush agreement is paying the hush money. If you're not going to pay the hush money, you don't have hushing. And if you don't have hushing, it's like, yeah, is Vince a horrible human being? Probably.
yeah.
Pay your hush money, dude. Pay your hush money. It's that easy. It's a
Is
civil case, though. It's a civil case, and and what I bet is gonna happen, Rachel, is I bet it's gonna spawn other allegations from other individuals that are emboldened, and maybe that's a good thing to come forward because of what this individual is doing.
it's like a reverse Rico case. You kind of go for one, and then you get all the other people to come up and say, "Yo, you know what? This is kind of what's happening. This was good." Because, like again, like you said, is he a horrible human being? Everyone says probably, but yeah, I would bet you dollars to donuts right now. This is not a one time situation.
No, he's getting caponed, by the way. If he pays the hush money, there's no civil suit. So and lest we forget, the dude has billions of dollars. Like, pay the hush money.
He's being extorted.
Yeah, is
Well, that's not okay either.
is a hush money agreement sort of a boilerplate thing, or have you guys come across this where it's kind of really into specifics?
I don't get involved in any of that.
No,
So
No.
we have rules in my jurisdiction. We have rules to where I cannot. We call it compounding a felony, and I
It's
cannot.
something like that.
Yeah, I cannot perpetuate a civil resolution to get rid of a criminal case. Although it happens often where I'm like, I make a victim whole, my client makes a victim whole, and that resolves the criminal case because the victim at that point says, well, I've been made whole, I'm good. you can't really do that in sex offense cases, but like you can't. It's a good rule because what the rule does is it stops me from doing it, and then it stops the accuser from extorting. Right? Because the accuser can't go to you and say, if you don't give me $10 million, I'm going to get you prosecuted and this, that, and the other. It's a good rule, right?
Legal black.
The only disagreement I have with Rachel on this one is the hush agreement. Where it starts is what makes me feel icky. If he's proposing $10 million to keep her quiet, it's icky. If she says that, hey, give me $10 million or I'm going to blast you, it's icky, but it's a different kind of ickiness on both of those, right? So sometimes
that's something that's going to be hush. Keep it between the two of them, and I want
right,
nothing to do.
Right.
If you guys want to look at a very famous hush money case, the Tiger Woods, when that whole thing went down, because that was fact that I think there was 19 sex workers, dancers, and all that at the club, and he had paid off, I believe, 16 out of the 19. But then, to Franz's point with Vince, is like 16 out of 19, it won't work because the other 3 went and sang that song all day long, and it was one fascinating story after another.
I mean, yeah, recipe for disaster from the beginning, but it's kind of the price you pay, but also
or don't
just
sexually assault people.
Who cares? Huh?
Yeah. Don't sexually assault people. Don't rent out your employees.
If you're going to pay for sex, pay.
Yeah. Finish the transaction.
Maybe tip. I don't know.
Is that a 20% tip kind of thing?
I don't know. Tip? I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm not suggesting you would know, Rachel. I'm just asking the question. I'm just saying, like, when I get a haircut, and I don't have any hair, but when I get a haircut, I tip 20%.
I don't get my hair cut either, so I don't know. I cut my own hair.
Your hair looks magnificent, Rachel Kaufman.
I cut my own hair. I have not gone to a hairstylist or ever. I cut my own hair, babe. $0.
Franz is asking Rachel if she tips her prostitutes and how much.
No, but I would. It's like keeping, just like Nathan Wade should have kept his soon-to-be ex-wife financially happy since he's getting a windfall anyways. Just don't create problems this would have never come out. So the whole point is, you asked earlier about whether we were surprised that like to find out that prosecutors would do something so stupid. What I want to say is they're conditioned to believe that they're almighty. They're brazen enough to do this kind of stuff. Not all of them, but it's a culture where, like any gang, they protect themselves. They take absolutely no accountability. They don't require it of each other, and they just protect each other. And that's why this happens.
And the slippery slope is sometimes you can get lost in the forest and between the forest and the trees. Mm-hmm. I believe when I was a prosecutor, and I was a prosecutor for about a year, that's how much I didn't like it, but I could go back to doing it tomorrow. If I didn't believe something happened, or if I didn't believe the defendant did something, I wasn't going to prosecute. If I believed it and I really got entrenched and I really believed it, I had to stop myself sometimes, because defense attorneys would show me stuff that would possibly exculpate their client. And my internal knee jerk is, oh, that's BS. But if it was good evidence, it was good evidence. Right. So it's like,
they start believing themselves, and that's it.
It's a slippery, and it's difficult. Sometimes it's really difficult. Like today I watched in the Crumbly case, I watched a prosecutor perpetuate evidence that had nothing to do with the elements of the crime, that was highly prejudicial. He got it in. It was about the swingers and the infidelity and all that. And yeah, I get that they were arguing that she was a bad mom and she was distracted and all that. But as an observer, I'm like, why would you create that appellate issue? But in the moment, if I was prosecuting her and I wanted them to think that she was a monster, I can't sit here and tell you with 100% certainty I might not have done the same thing.
Well, that's a really stupid. Hold on, that's a really stupid move, because I'm thinking to myself,
no, I agree.
No, these jurors might be swingers. You did not ask that during jury selection.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That's true.
Don't do that. Don't try to vilify something that has nothing to do with this, and you don't know, you don't know who these people are. You don't know who you're.
Microscopic so for example, what I said today on Court TV was when you start putting a parent under a microscope, if you have parents on the jury, they're going to start they're going to start thinking, hey, dude, do you not have kids? Do you not understand that, like, when you're on 24/7 kids, like, you fuck up. Like, I love my 8-year-old. My 8-year-old is the center of my universe. But, like, to tell you that I'm the best dad in the world, I'm not. I mean,
No,
like,
these people have real issues. They probably should have taken a plea and begged. And you know what they should do? They should have, if I was the judge, I would take their plea and I would tell them that I think for accountability's sake, they need to go on a national tour. We can come up with it together where they're going to go to schools and speak about gun violence and what happened and how whatever. Go to parenting classes.
Isn't
so
it
what I
now for both attorneys though? Isn't it sort of like the day one of law school? It's kind of like a don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to, or sort of thing. Like, would jury selection play into that? Like we were saying earlier, how everyone hates Tom Brady and everybody loves Aaron Rodgers. If you go into a courtroom and say that, and half of those people on the jury are Tom Brady lovers, you've automatically turned them off, whether
If
you're on
one
the
of them
prosecution or
is,
defense or not.
if one of them is, you've turned them off and you don't know if they're a leader or a follower and they could sway the whole jury.
so she got so the defense attorney got backed into a corner because the prosecution, most of the case, was insinuating that the criminal defense attorneys were hiding things, which is in and of itself a reverse.
Yeah, hiding
a
what?
reverse, a reverse burden shift, right?
Yeah.
But so I think the fear was, if we don't lean into the stuff that's coming in, right? But they did not voir dire on that. They didn't. I mean, and look, am I comfortable standing up and saying, look, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag? You're going to hear evidence in this trial that my client is a swinger, is someone who is not only a swinger, but, like, or however you're going to phrase it.
If it's going to come out though, isn't it better that you bring it out so you can just kind of be like, yeah, it's no big deal.
I mean, yeah, I'd be like, they're going to tell you things that have nothing to do with the case. We can discuss them
Exactly,
later. It might wake you up because you're like, this is actually kind of fun and interesting, unlike the rest of the case, but it has nothing to do with the case. I'm
Now,
like,
what I'll do is, in opening and in voir dire, I'll condition them to watch for the prosecutor creating evidence that has nothing to do with the case so that you hate my client, and that hate would be a substitute for proof and a substitute for the elements, and you just keep hammering it, and then in closing you're like, look, I told you they were going to do it, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And look, Rachel
They're
probably
people
doesn't do
too.
this.
Swingers are people.
Yeah, like Rachel probably doesn't do this, but I've stood up before. Yeah, I've stood up before.
That's going to be the name of the podcast, by the way.
We have feelings. I have stood up before in closing arguments on cases where my client was an asshole, and everybody knew my client was an asshole, and said, look, I'm not going to mince words. If I were sitting where you were sitting, I might think that my client's a jerk.
Yeah, you roast them so they don't have to roast him. Yeah,
but it doesn't mean he's guilty of anything. And he can be, I'll tell you what's not mutually exclusive. He can be an asshole and not guilty at the same time.
You know what, though? I would say
exactly
70 or to 80% of people can't separate that. You know, it's like sometimes when you run into somebody who looks like somebody that you hated when you were younger or has the same name, you know, when you're going through when you're going to name your children or whatever, you're like, you can't name them Jen because, you know, I hated a Jen in high school. I'd be a terrible juror because it would only take a little while or so for you to say something that would turn me off, and then I
sat on a jury. This is a fun story. I sat on a jury before I was a lawyer, so I was 22 years old, and it was a medical malpractice case in Cleveland, Ohio. I remember feeling like, there was no medical malpractice was the number one issue. But what they didn't ask about during jury selection was like how we feel about animals or hunting. But the family, the daughter of the guy that died, got on the stand and talked about how she loved to go hunting with her dad. And at the time I was like all in my like super liberal, I still am, like animal welfare, animals over humans, treat animals with respect. And I was like, ew, like the value of this guy's life went from I don't know, whatever, it being a nice father to being like an evil hunter that like killed Bambi's mom.
Asshole.
Like, yeah, like Like, and they didn't ask about that during jury selection, but they brought it up on the stand as if it was like a good thing that they did together, not even realizing how that would affect a juror and their value of these family.
There are
crazy.
human beings. There are human beings, and I sometimes wonder if I'm one of them that like their pets and their dogs and their animals more than other human beings.
But depends on the human.
I mean, I love my dog. My dog is a mini schnauzer, and I got to tell you, I love my mini schnauzer more than I love some other human beings.
Oh, hands down. I like, believe me, I have cats that I would take my cat over Alex Murtaugh.
Oh, over most people. No, I mean, when I think about like what I would do to someone who tried to hurt my dog, all the way, what the things I would do, crazy. And then I
Good.
get
That means
vengeful.
you're a
I'm like,
good person.
and then I'm gonna get your kids too, because
It
they
was
beat my
Gandhi.
dog.
Gandhi said you can judge the progress of a nation by how they treat their animals.
They're most vulnerable. Yeah, the most
Gandhi knew a thing
vulnerable.
or two.
Yeah, animals are loyal. Humans questionable. But yes, just small things like that people
This
don't
is
think
why I
about.
like Kaufman. That's why I like Rachel Kaufman.
You know, so swingers, I used to be sitting on that jury, and like I'm not a swinger, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying that, like you say, you don't know. Nobody wants their phone data dumped, so they'll like go through people's phones and then use it against them in court, like salacious pictures or like text messages that are like not nice, you know, just they're gross. Like everybody, I mean, I don't need to go through all your phones, but you know what's on your phone. I mean, you
So,
know what's on, you know what
You would
you know what's
find
on your,
bad, even for
yeah.
good people, you would find bad stuff.
So
I
like,
mean, that's
so
what
just
the phone is
imagine.
for.
And it's probably weirder. So like some of your swingers, it's like, well, at least they're not looking. I mean, imagine them using against you that you like to go dress up as a furry. Like
Yeah.
that's your business.
Well,
It doesn't make you a bad parent.
so to your point, while I'm willing to bet that not everybody on that jury is a swinger. I'm
Yeah.
willing to bet that the infidelity piece, the philandering piece, more people than you might believe have experienced extracurricular activities.
Without
And when you
question.
start, and you start casting stone, like I think the pendulum is going to swing the other way for her. And to some degree, there are going to be some jurors that are like, wait, what does this have to do with anything?
But
Like, I'll tell you the thing.
Is
I'll
it
tell
just
you the
about
thing that
them providing the guns to him? Is that what it is?
it's gross negligence. It's manslaughter, but it's a gross negligence standard,
I
right?
kind of
It's
love
like,
it though. I think if parents were responsible for what their kids do into maybe until they're 25, maybe people would be less recklessly reproductive. Stop it. I mean, stop it.
See, but you know what? And you guys brought it up earlier with the jury. You start to go down a different path and you start to fill the jury head with a bunch of different shit. And then at the end of the day, they're like, okay, I remember all the facts of the case, but I also remember this person's a horrible human being. And if you are
Yeah.
50-50 on that, again, that's why I'd be a terrible jury. That would tip me towards the.
Well, if I were representing Crumbly, which I do, I hate guns and I hate parents who think it's okay for their crazy ass kids to be out here and to make sure that they're not protecting us from them if they know that they're like, you know, concerning. But in this case, I feel like we're mad at the outcome, and the outcome we're attributing what we now know, like hindsight being 2020, to what she should have known at the time that she did what she did.
Right.
And so I think everyone's kind of like, we wouldn't have dropped the ball. It reminds me of the Parkland shooter with the security guard. Like he didn't go, you know, they went after him for not trying to protect the kids. It's like, it's to me, the Crumbly thing is what was her intent? They have to have criminal intent. It can't just be that this was the outcome. It's not necessarily a foreseeable outcome.
So that's the kicker with a negligent based crime, right? Gross negligent is not specific intent. It's not general intent. It still has to have some criminal intent to do the act, right? And so, like, what's really frustrating is one of the issues they're bringing up in the case, guys, is guilty conscious by flight. And I'm like, it's a negligence case. Like, it's not a specific intent crime. Guilty conscious, if you're saying that she acted grossly negligent, you're saying that she had a guilty conscience about her gross negligence, that she probably wasn't even aware that I mean, like, it doesn't, like, I can't.
Yeah, it's too much.
I'm like, you guys
Rachel disagrees.
They're just such shitty parents. And
no, I agree. I agree 100%. I've said it on national TV a few times this week. Are they going to win any Parents of the Year award? Absolutely not. They're terrible parents. I just don't know how I feel. Like, Are you going to prosecute the school security guy who said, I didn't think he was a risk. I didn't check his bag that had the weighted gun in it. Like
Yeah,
if you're
hindsight
gonna
2020, we all wish we could step in and do
Yeah.
that, but we can't. And
right.
they didn't necessarily, I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, I also think people imagine their own kids misbehaving and then being held responsible for that. And they don't like that either.
I got to ask this question because you said something that I agree with, but I wonder. I agree that this should have been pled out. My question is do you think Michigan, the state of Michigan, allowed them any kind of plea bargaining at all? Do you think they offered him anything? Do you think they were like,
There has to be
because
creative they need creative negotiations. So I bet there was a conversation, but it was probably like prison time, and they're like, no. But if as a defense attorney, I like to offer things that they've never heard of before. Like, my clients will have to write an op-ed, or what they have to get on TV and do a PSA about something that's like not wearing a scarlet letter, but they're actually going to try to prevent this from happening.
So she is not going to, even if she's convicted, even if she gets jail, she's not spending the rest of her life in jail. She has a foreseeable out date at some point. She's of an age that I think she walks out of prison at some point. So to me, and I think she's incarcerated now. I don't think she's out on bond. She might be, but I think she's incarcerated. I don't know. I don't know that I would have. There had to have been some kind of negotiation. I like the idea of creative negotiations.
Yeah, and also going non-negotiated and asking the court, like, not just accepting whatever the state's offering. And sometimes you can plead guilt. You can plead guilty. The state can ask for what they want, and I can propose something different.
It sounds like it would be easier if there wasn't a death involved, like,
or multiple.
Yeah, or
I mean, but just how far, we all, I want to punish parents. So just like by nature, like I think parents should be punished more often. But is that my own? I mean, I'm realizing the cause of it, but was that their intent? And I have to stop myself because I would love just for the kid, whether the parents did it or not.
Especially if it's not like, it's a low income neighborhood, it's a single mother, this sort of thing. You're right. Like when it happens with somebody who's, well off, that has two parents that are still together and all this stuff, that does something like this in the 12, 13, 14. I agree that the parents should have to shovel somewhat of something.
So I think you're going to see legislation throughout the United States that specifically codify, specifically criminalize the acts of parents or their failure to act. Most states have an equivalent. Like they would be prosecuted for negligent homicide in Louisiana. It's a 0 to 5 year non-violent crime felony that absolutely would fit this category. It's low enough stakes to where even if they got convicted of the 0 to 5 years, if they got 5 years as first offenders, assuming they're first offenders, they would do a quarter of 5 years. So to take 60 months and divide that by 4, and that's whatever they would do if they got maxed out. But many states don't have this catch-all of, okay, well, we want to prosecute the shooter, and we're doing that. We got a conviction on that, but now we want to prosecute like this officer who doesn't run into the frame in Florida, or we want to prosecute the shitty parents in Michigan. And that manslaughter crime my problem is not that I don't think they did a crime. It's does that fit? Does their actions fit that crime?
Yeah,
that's the
issue. Just watered it down, trying to put everybody involved in jail.
Which feels good when you want vengeance.
If a 13-year-old kid can pick up a gun off the dinner table and go out and shoot somebody, that's on the parents. If he picks the lock on the safe, well, then the parents kind of did what they were supposed to do by locking up the weapon. So it's one of those things that would be, it would be difficult to break down, to figure out who's bad and who's not.
Well, there should be like a separate system of like it's a parental justice system where when your kids are accused, whether you even participate or not, the presumption should be that you are responsible and need to take parenting classes and should not be allowed to continue to have kids until you handle it. In my dreams, and this is only coming from, listen to me, I get so far left, I'm right. Remember, that's how far I go, all the way around the wheel. It's that I really see like the majority, we talk about like the backlog in the system, like we talk about the criminal dockets. I mean, a lot of these kids were like, the parent couldn't handle the first one or the second one. Like they have multiple kids in prison.
Keep going till you have a winner.
I mean,
Well,
I mean, you
let's
need
be
to
honest.
focus on one or two and give them
Yeah,
your.
let's be honest. It's not really difficult to create human beings.
I have
No,
It's
not
not,
created. I don't know.
but it's not,
me
but it's
neither.
not, it's not calculus. It's not calculus. It's
Yeah.
not advanced physics.
Neither is preventing pregnancy. I've managed that.
I agree with you
37.
1,000%. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
need to.
I know Franz has a bunch to do, and hopefully, just one last thing
I
that
thought
I
you were
I
going to
wanted to
say a
talk
bunch
about.
of
Good. I have
kids.
to
I
go
was
to the
like, I
vet.
only have one that I know of. I only have one that I know of.
There was one other thing that just came up with that they keep banging the drum with this Alec Baldwin thing. If this is a swing at a civil trial to try to get some money, why are they still going after the not murder charge, but why are they going after? Like, can't they just skip ahead to the civil situation?
So the re-indictment seems to be based on he made a comment that he never pulled the trigger. They had the gun, the firearm analyzed, which they had to put modifications on to get it to fire, but that's neither here nor there. And realizing that it had to actually have the trigger pulled to fire.
He would have known he pressed the.
Right. And so, like, he never should have, just me on my soapbox, why he would get on an interview and say, oh, I didn't pull
Why
the
say
trigger.
anything?
Because he's Alec Baldwin. He could not say anything. I mean,
The same reason.
I was in the hunt for Red October. God damn it!
No, when people play sports, even when they hit the ball out in like basketball, they immediately point at the other person when they know that it was them. They don't. That's what it's like a human nature to just be like, not me. No, not
Yeah,
me.
if you look at a lot of things, like we talked about Tiger Woods earlier, you notice after all that shit went down, he disappeared for 2 or 3 years, didn't say a word about anything, and he came back. People still love him.
because everybody loves a comeback kid.
We love Michael Jackson. We love Michael. I still love
Michael
Jackson.
Vick, as a dog lover, the guy's a monster. He's an
Last
absolute
piece,
monster.
though. Here's
Kept
my
his mouth
question I
shut,
struggle
went
with.
to jail, disappeared, came back, signed and got another $100 million contract because he didn't go out there running his mouth. Like,
I want to electric prod him though a little bit. See how it feels.
Rachel, here's my question.
Yep.
Can I separate the art from the artist? Can I love and cherish Michael Jackson music while simultaneously not loving Michael Jackson?
No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes. And you can step in the name of love to R. Kelly. Do y'all thing. I actually have like a whole playlist of people that are supposed to be canceled that I still listen to.
Rachel,
And it's a great playlist.
what about the magic that is Aaron Rodgers playing football aside from the person?
Aaron Rodgers, when he started talking about all that vaccine stuff, and I used to love Kyrie too. They just got a little weird on me, but Aaron Rodgers just seems like he just can't get along with anybody. Tom Brady's just, it's more of like a jealousy. Like, how are you that attractive and like a quarterback and like married to I think it's more everyone's envy that makes people dislike whatever dislike I have of Tom Brady. It's because it's like jealousy.
In the Boston.
Not that I want to be a man with I don't know. Just saying.
Would you go on a date? Hold on. Would you go on a date with Tom Brady?
Me? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I actually would.
I mean, I would never take seriously.
too.
I would never take seriously that he wanted to go on a date with me.
Why not?
I'd let him take me to a nice dinner.
Yeah, he's like the senior quarterback in high school, and you're like a freshman with like braces on. That's what it's like. I mean, he's just like, he should run for office.
Yeah, it's like she's all that. Tom Brady, she's all thatting. Rachel Kaufman.
He's a freaking Ken doll.
Oh my God, Freddie Prinze Jr. That kid was so good.
Remember, she takes off her glasses and everyone realizes she's beautiful.
Do you know what Freddie Prinze Jr. does now?
He
writes for WWE Wrestling.
Really?
He's creator. Google it. He's a writer for wrestling now.
Look at him go. So is not Mark Wahlberg. There was somebody else that was in the WWE creative team that I was.
Isn't Freddie Prinze? Who's Freddie Prinze married to?
Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire. Okay, we could do this all day, but I know.
Okay. We say goodbye.
If you want more of what you have heard or seen today, check out Rachel Kaufman on Twitter at RKRealTalk or on Instagram at _Rachel Kaufman. You can also use the international network to Google her, Rachel Kaufman with 1 F. And if you need some legal advice in Georgia, check out www.rachelkaufmanlaw.com. And speaking for an extra helping of Franz in Louisiana, visit www.borghartlawfirm.com, on Twitter at Borghardt Law, or just also use the internet to Google him, Borghardt, Franz Borghardt Law. Thank you guys so much and have a great day.
Oh my God, such a great idea. And Franz, I love you, man. I know I need to come to Baton Rouge because in the words of Boosie Badass, I wish this could be my intro. They call me badass and I punish him. That's what it's a rapper.
Have you been to New Orleans?
No. I don't.
You would love New Orleans. You would love New Orleans.
I know. I want to hang out with like the old guys on the corner at the gas station. Like
music,
that's kind of what.
music. We'll get into it later. All right, bye guys.
All right, you guys have a good day.
It's 4:24. It's 4:20. I gotta go.
Rachel,
Goodbye.
thank you so much. Franz, thank you. That was awesome. You guys rock. Good luck at the vet. I hope it's nothing serious.